Education, Professor Nanajen, put a committee together to sample so many bills from different schools. And at the end of it all, they came out with the approved fees, and which was agreed among all the major stakeholders, including the president of CHAS, who was a member of the committee. And the Director General sent a letter to all the regional directors of education across the country to be distributed to the various heads in their regions. So the approved fees for the year amounted to 437 for boarders, including their feeding fee, 2 sets of school uniform, house jersey, 2 sets of house jersey, some PTA dues, and so many other things. So this was sent to all the schools. And we had information from media, the well-meaning Ghanaians all over the country, that some people, some heads were going against the letter which was sent by the Director General. Initially, we invited some of these school heads to Accra for interrogation, and they denied the assertions. So a team was put together, headed by my Gustav. We went to Central Region, and we found out that not only that they were charging unapproved fees, but they were not admitting students who were placed by the computerized placement system to the various schools.
Right.
We charged them to revert to the approved fees and then admit them. And then we asked the Regional Director of Education for Central Region to apply the necessary sanctions to those heads. Then from there, we spent about 2 days in Ashadu Region, and the story was the same. There, we had the mode of operation. When we get to school, we get the various receipts for payment to various items on their bills. But it will interest you to know that anytime we get to school, some of the heads even try to deceive all of us until we produce their own receipts, which some amounted to 1,200 Ghana cedis, some 1,500 Ghana cedis, and some 1,700 Ghana cedis.
I wanted to ask you the reasons for charging these unapproved fees. How did the committee led by you understand why these heads want to charge these unapproved fees?
Yeah, as the name implies, it's unapproved. So they were charging fees which was not, they were not supposed to charge. For instance, some were charging 100 Ghana cedis for a bed. And we always ask them the number of students which left school the previous year. And they will tell you, about 1,000 students left last year because of 3 years and 4 years. How many are you taking this year? They will tell you 800. It means if you have beds for 1,000 students, what about 800 for this year? So they were taking some of this money, for free. And in the itemized bill, you see school rules. Maybe you know the school rules. It used to be a one sheet when we were in secondary school in the 70s. I don't know how big it is now.
Right.
But they were charging 40 Ghana cedis for a school rule alone. And, so many items, put together will give you that amount. And we said that wasn't approved because at the footnote of the letter which the Director General sent to them, there's a footnote attached to the itemized bill. And it states that if you want to charge any additional fees, you must first seek clarification or authorization from the Director General before you charge anybody.
All right. Hold the line for me. Let me speak to Mr. Samuel Oforeji, the president of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools. Now, Mr. Oforeji, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much. But I would want that next time, if you want me to comment, when another person, for instance, the minister is commenting, you let me listen.
Right.
So that I don't speak without knowing exactly what is going on. I'm not too happy with that.
Right. Thank you so much.
Next time, please, or else I wouldn't respond to your calls any longer.
Right. Thank you so much. But first of all, the issue of unapproved fees, the Ghana Education Service is clamping down on heads of schools who are engaged in that act. First of all, your reaction from Charles.
No, you see, those who care to know, before this academic year began, I wrote to all the heads. Title, how do I die title? I think from the president's desk. And I mentioned several things, including the admission process, the fees, and that members should wait until they had heard from us as to how much to charge. But incidentally, these terms fees are duly delayed. So a day to the time that schools were to reopen, I had to go to the director of secondary and ask him, Mr. Director, what fees are we charging this term? Because we had met with a select group at the ministers' conference room, and several issues were raised. In fact, I drew attention to the committee about the absence of certain very important items which were left out of the fee list. So when I went to the director of secondary, he quickly put together something for us as an interim fee. The latest one which came is dated 30th of October. So what happened is that most of our members had used the previous fees and then the way it was done previously. So when these issues came up, we called them and said the best thing to do is to get back, please, where you have supplied the goods, let's see what can be done. And if possible, those which will call for refund or crediting the students, that should be it. So that is the procedure we as leadership of JAS have done.
Right. Mr. Ofreje, hold on. Let me go back to the Deputy Minister of Education. Now, Mr. Treme, for instance, the headmaster of Tuase Senior High School thinks that there are other schools that were also engaged in that. For instance, the Ashanti Regional Education Directorate names Opokuwari, Yasantua Girls Prempeh College, Santa Maria Senior High School, Eduman, and others who were also indicted of having done same, and he thinks that he is being picked on as a scapegoat.
That is not so. I don't want to comment on the Ashanti Regional Director of Education's sanction to some of his own staff. Actually, we are meeting all the regional directors of education tomorrow, and then he will submit his report for all of us to know whether the sanctions are okay or not. So I wouldn't like to comment on the issue. But I was with the Director General, the Regional Director when we went round.
Right.
In fact, like the person of charge is saying, they agreed on about 650 deposit pending that of the Ghana Education Service approved fee. So, when you go to a school, for instance, they will tell you, we will credit the accounts of students next term. So, it's a dialogue. We were not there as a witch hunting to just, victimize anybody.
Right.
But to see to it that they were doing right things. So, some schools agreed that they will return to the approved fees. And, we let it go. But at once, if my memory will serve me right, the headmaster insisted that she was not going to do anything about it. After all, he has already collected the money, and I think that was why I'm imagining. I think that was why the regional director took
that decision. But let me also find out from you, the Ghana Education Service. Do they think that perhaps these fees being charged by these heads are not needed, they are not necessary, they are just too much? Is that what the Education Service thinks?
That is so. Because, why are you buying a new bed for new, students? Meanwhile, those who left about 1,000 beds. So what is the need? Again, if you look through the bill, get into the last, lines, you also see it's an itemized bill. You also see a bed user fee. So, for instance, if I'm buying bed for my own use, why am I the same person paying a user fee for a bed I'm buying? These are some of the things some of us marvel. And, you know, some of these schools, like Swansea, they were buying vehicles for the school. And we said, you know, as part of the instructions, you need to, you have to seek authorization from the Director General herself before you will be able to charge anything. And so this is a simple order from the Director General, which you represent in the school. So if you go against her own orders, you are going against your own orders, you know. So we felt that wasn't right. You know, but what we said again was that, you know, first-year students, parents suffer a lot, you know, because apart from the fact that they pay all these fees, they are supposed to buy so many other things for their wards before they get into school. So why don't you wait for them to enter before, even if you have good intentions, then you seek clarification from the Director General and then charge some of these fees.
Let me speak to Mr. Oforeje. Mr. Oforeje, let me pick your brain on this. Are heads of schools sometimes compelled to charge these fees in order to survive, in order to help in running the school?
Well, I'm happy that my political head, the deputy minister, is around to listen to some of these things. Yes, the fact still remains that it's not everything that the government can do. So I agree with him perfectly that we should go through the process. And this is what we've been hammering on to our members, that you cannot just use your own discretion because we are running a public institution. So if you needed something, there is a procedure. We have what you call forms A to F. You look at what the demands of the school are. For instance, ahead of the bed issue, I am not very comfortable with our members saying everybody should pay for a bed. There is a procedure. As he rightly said, if the request for a bed is, say, 100, and the ministry is not in the position to supply, what we do is this. You cost the 100 beds, and after you've costed it, you go to a meeting with the PTA and put it before them. When they agree, the board is informed. There is a form we call Form A to F. You fill this form, dividing the total cost of the bed with the number of students who are boarders. Because don't forget, when the Form 1s leave, they are not taking the beds away. It becomes a property of the school. So when that is divided, the unit cost per student comes less. And then when these the forms are filled, you send it to the regional director who will read through, and if he approves or she approves, she will sign her column, and then it goes to the Director General, who has the final say on matters like this. She may decide to approve or disapprove depending on the request that has been made and the supporting document. So what I'm saying is that, yes, there are instances where certain things are not paid. I'm sure the Deputy Minister is aware that the subsidies for last term and this term have not yet been paid. So even if we are running our school buses, where is the money coming from? There is nothing on the bill to run, our school buses. See, so there are issues that we have to sit down. I'm currently at a conference in Kumasi. NAT is organizing a national conference, a council. So when I come back, I intend seeking audience with the minister so that we sit down. Then we look at these things very well so that we don't seem to be watching dirty linen. I didn't want to mention some of these things on air because sometimes you go to the classrooms, teachers' notebooks, we have to buy them.
Clearly.
See, we cannot say everything on air. So we'll go and meet in a small closet and then discuss these things and see the best way forward.
So clearly, these heads of schools sometimes run into difficulties and they needed this money to survive.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the facts are clear. The facts are clear. Sometimes it's difficult to. As I speak with you, sports is one of the absorbed fees. Last time we did sports, this time we've done sports. But we haven't received the subsidies to take care of these things. So sometimes through our ingenuity, that's why we are keeping some of the disciplines and other things going on. So I agree that there have been excesses on the part of some people. But I think the minister will understand the position, and then we try and see how to stop these things from happening next time around. Then we should all play our reciprocal roles very well. And then we hope anybody who falls foul, then he has some evil intention or other intentions more than the goodwill of the school that he is heading. In that case, we as staff members will also probably deny such a person.
Mr. Chairman, now the processes, the child's head is talking about going through the right procedure. The processes that these heads would have to go through before getting any fees approved. Do you think it can help to, if let me put it this way, sanitize the environment, the senior high school environment, and the way heads of schools operate?
As part of, if you look at the column 4 of the GS approved fees, we have the medical examination fee there, and we have PTA levy, which is 30 Ghana cedis, as an approved fee. You were talking about sports fees. We've made provision for the year, which is 5 Ghana cedis per annum, and internet, study materials. So we have all these things as part of the itemized bill. And we will not take anything as justification for people to charge students for activities which we think is not their prerogative to do that. Because if you look at the itemized bill, it's not for the welfare of the children. It's not. They are not charging these fees to replace what government is not doing.
Right.
But yes, definitely. Because what is hymn book? Which is costing more than 50 Ghana cedis. What is school rule, which is costing 40 Ghana cedis? While the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana is going for 5 Ghana cedis. So I don't want anybody to give excuses for some of these fees they are charging in various schools. The mere fact that subsidies and other things are not coming, definitely the government will pay. If government pays,
but when it delays, it puts these heads into trouble, because then they lack the money to run their school.
Fees? Is that enough to charge fees, or are they going to refund the money even if it is paid?
But if they don't have money, for instance, to feed the students, how do they run the school if whatever comes from government is delaying?
They are not charging fees to feed students.
But I'm just using it. I'm just using this as an example.
No, they are not charging fees. That they charge the approved fees, which is 205, which is in the bill. All right. So that's what they've already charged. So all other fees on the itemized bill is different items, and we are saying it's not. We have not approved of that. All we are saying that if you have a good intention, just improve anything in your school, be it infrastructure, be it school bus, be it, to buy a standby generator, anything, just first seek approval from the Ghana Education Service, and we understand that. It's a public institution, and we have laws governing public institutions, and GS is not an exception. Senior high schools are not exemption. So we are entreating them to seek authorization from the Director General before any fee is charged.
Let me quickly pick your brain on this before I let you go. Now, the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools is thinking of proposing to the Ministry of Education for an increase in the feeding fee of second cycle schools. First of all, your reaction to this?
That is before us. The president is a member of the committee who sat down to approve of this fee. So, it's not a fee which has not been, revised for many years. They keep on revising the fees annually. So, if we sit down, we'll be able to approve. But for now, we are saying that 437 is what has been approved.
Right.
And we need to charge that until the time that we all agree among ourselves and then put something on it. Actually, 2 Ghana cedis and 20 pesos or thereabout per day per student is hopefully inadequate. But until the time that we increase that, it's a different story. All what we are saying that it's not about the fees, it's not about the feeding fees. We are seriously against, but we are seriously against other fees, which has no relation to the welfare and the progress of the school and, for that matter, the student.
Right. Mr. Furiache, Charles is thinking of asking for an increase in the feeding fee. Is it because it is inadequate?
Oh, definitely. If you have
difference there about per student per day, although government subsidize these fees, even woefully inadequate. And I wouldn't mind if it is raised to maybe about 3 Ghana cedis. And if it is raised to 3 Ghana cedis per day, that will even not even get the school fees to about 650. But right now, some are charging 1,500 Ghana cedis and some are charging 1,700 Ghana cedis because they have loaded their itemized bill.
And that is
not the issue.
That is where the worry is.
Yeah, come again.
I'm asking, so the worry is the loaded itemized bill, not the feeding fee that is inadequate.
Yes. Because if somebody is paying weeding fee, and our treasurers, my brother, our treasurers, if I'm buying bed for 100 Ghana cedis, and at the end of the term, you ask me to pay a user bed fees, is it also not our treasurers?
Let me wrap up.
It's like buying your own car, and when you get to somewhere, the driver will ask you to pay money.
Let me wrap up with the Deputy Minister of Education. Mr. Chairman, so you are asking these heads to go through the proper procedure. Your final words to perhaps these heads who are not doing the right thing. Let's wrap up on this.
They know, some have agreed to credit the accounts of affected students next term. We are waiting anxiously to see whether they will do that. And tomorrow we'll have a meeting with all the regional heads and we'll assign them duty to go all out just to forestall some of these heads who are charging unauthorized fee. And my brother on the other side will also agree with me that, at the meeting he challenged Ghana Education Service, and for that matter, the Minister of Education for once to crack the whip. And that is exactly what we are going to do now. He said it several times at the meeting when we were determining these fees. He said it over and over again before the committee that for once we must crack the whip. And that is exactly what we are going to do.
Thank you so much for speaking to Mr. Alex Tremer, Deputy Minister of Education in charge of basic education. Mr. Furiache, and let's wrap up. Now, the Deputy Minister said you had, at a point in time, even insisted that let's quickly crack the whip, asking them to take sanctions against the heads who perhaps will go wrong. Is that your final word?
Let me make a few things clear. I'm not here to argue with my deputy minister.
Right.
And I keep on saying that some of us have been in this profession for some time now. The sports fee he mentioned about, it was introduced on the 30th of October when the bills had already left. So let's put that aside. But what we're saying is this. At the said meeting, I said that if people, deliberately, if they deliberately do what is against the rule, I think they should not lump all the heads together and give us names.
Right.
Let's identify them and deal with them according to the way they behave. And I'm saying that if, for instance, the bells are not there and they do not pass the right, procedure, they do not use the right procedure, why not? We should not just keep our eyes shut on such things. We should let them know. But we must also play our role, whether as government or leadership, so that people are not tempted to do some of the things they are doing. That is all I just want to say. But what I'm saying is that beyond just saying cracking the whip, I made it categorically clear that the amount which was raised at about 470 is not the entire story.
Right.
If, for instance, you are saying that go and put exercise books in the store, and those who wish to buy to go and buy, what are we talking about? Is that the best way we should handle people who should be in school? If they come and for about 1 month they decide not to buy exercise books, how did they do exercise? So some of these things we should sit down and correct them properly. I'm not against cracking the whip for people who have done extremely bad things. I mean, we are trying to bring sanity into the society. And if the sanity is based on laid down principles, I have no problem with that. But what I want to say is that we as church are also looking at the issues. We are addressing the issues seriously. Sometimes we would wish that some of these things, since we have an association, let us also be involved in some of these decisions. The leadership of the association should be involved so that we know how to handle our people, because we understand the chemistry a little better.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. Mr. Samuel Oforiaje is the president of Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools. They're talking to me about some sanctions on some officials of the Ghana Education Service second cycle schools for disobeying rules and regulations. The first part of today's big story has just ended, and we're getting interactive when we hit the second part with Lady Marian. Stay right there. My name is Bright Nanamfo. I'm coming back with Lady Marian. Right, welcome back to today's big story. This is an interactive segment. She just joined me. Welcome, Marian.
Thank you. How are you?
It's a Thursday, gradually hitting the weekend.
I know.
That means a lot of excitement coming on.
It's like a chicken dying slow death.
Right. And what's trending today?
What's trending today? We're talking about, deputy ministers. The political scientists are saying that they're not necessary in this country, especially when whether it's their roles and functions, they're not enshrined in our constitution.
Right.
And if you go to the US and other countries like that, they have so many things happening, but you won't find them having, deputies unless, those huge ones that you cannot do without finance, state department and stuff like that. You have people to help them.
Their thinking is that the substantive ministers can do the work.
Can do the work.
They don't need deputies.
Especially in the big, the ones that we need hands in. But with the rest, we don't need deputies, because what are they doing? That's what they're asking.
Let's listen to what people say about this particular issue.
Thank you so much. Let's get interactive. My name is Marian Toure. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, I'd like to announce all the social media tools that you need to get in touch with the show. After all, the show thrives on your comments and what you are talking about on social media. So join us, facebook.com/Joy News on TV. Post all your comments there under our post, and then we'll share them with the rest of the world. We tweet at Joy News on TV, and please remember to use the hashtag JNInteractiveGH when you're sending all your tweets in, so we can, share them all at once with the rest of the world. I am on Twitter too, and I tweet at MN Toure. If you're sending us an email, send it to Joy News. I am at multitvworld.com, and our WhatsApp number is 0260518801. Welcome back, and as we say here, JN Interactive is where tech meets news to set the agenda. So whatever you're talking about in cyberspace, we are also talking about it here on our platform. And I'd like for you to see, what is trending at this particular moment that we are also talking about. And the story, which is featured on XYZ Radio, XYZ Online, says that deputy ministers are useless, in quotes. Political science lecturer is saying that, and just a little bit of that for you. It says that some political scientists are asking President Mahama to consider scrapping the deputy ministerial portfolio to reduce public spending. President Mahama, as part of efforts to reduce government spending, he announced a 10% pay cut. And if you listened to the budget statement, Seth Tekbe, representing him, said that on his behalf. And, he is saying that they don't think that we need all of these people. And they are asking, the big question is, what is so special about their roles? What are they doing that the substantive minister cannot do? What are the deputies there for? And so because of all of these things, they're thinking that, hey, they're really not necessary. Their roles, their functions is absolutely a non-starter. It doesn't add up or take away from anything at all. And so we'll try and take our first video blog, and with our first video blog we are asking what you think about it. They're saying that it is absolutely unnecessary. So what do you think? Do you agree with them? Do you disagree? Why do you agree or disagree with them? Let's take our first video blog.
For the deputies, we need deputy, but the quantity of deputy ministers involved in our country as we talk now is too much. And for me per se, I don't see the reason why we should have as many as 3-4 deputy ministers in one sector. It's too much. They are spending money unnecessarily because their cost, they sit down for allowances, and it's too much. The cost in our country with these deputy ministers now is very high, and it's too much.
I agree with some, particularly for regional ministers. I think the deputy regional ministers are useless, but for some of the key ministries like education, like agriculture, where the sectors are so large, I think that they do need deputy ministers at least to help them in steering the ministries.
I don't think so. In my view, they have a role to play. You know, they have the role to play, and in our democracy, sometimes the minister will be having some program somewhere. They need the same minister somewhere too. So the deputy minister is supposed to represent the center minister there.
I think we need a deputy minister. Even aside everything, even in schools, we have class prefects and 8 assistants. So maybe in case when the class prefect is not feeling well, we have the assistants coming in to work on behalf of the class prefect. So I think the deputy minister is more important in this country, and we need them. We need them so that in case when a minister is not around, he can come and work on behalf of him when he's not around.
The leaders can't handle the whole issue on their own. They need assistance, as president needs vice president to help him out when he's not in the state or in the region. So that is the main reason why he's there. In case of the leader is not there, he's there to take over.
Welcome back. So that is what you have been sharing with us. So we'll go on Facebook and take some trending comments that are coming in on the topic that we are talking about right now. And we are asking you to share your view on it, whether or not what the political scientists are saying is true. And FO says that not at all. I don't share that view. Deputy ministers are very relevant. All the work can be left on the sector ministers alone. But instead of 2, each minister must have 1 deputy. And that is what you were saying. Newton Jeffers says, I totally agree with him. I don't know what they are even doing. All they do is to organize meetings and huge sitting allowances. Gilbert says, ha. Romeo says, of course, yes. Philip says, yes, of course. Now that they've know, it's up to them. The shorthand part, I didn't get it. Joaquim says, no, I don't share their view. We need the deputies. Emmanuelson, I strongly disagree, but the money they are taking is too much. King Rash, Ghana, we only talk facta non verba. Gilbert says, not serious. Benjilo, it is a job for the babies with sharp teeth. Christian Salvo says, well, I disagree with that because the substantive minister cannot do the job alone. And Emperor Gandalf says, I agree 100% with them because they really do not have any stipulated roles to play. Meanwhile, they are being paid. Karim Fuseni, some of the sectors do not need e.g. info, communications, etc. Johnny Kwabna Aboro Noma says, yes, I do agree because I don't see any effort coming from deputy ministers. They are not even recognized. Darling Boy says, yeah, it's true. How can information have 2 deputies or what? So we'll pause here and then talk to Aminu Dramani, and he's a political science lecturer at KNUST, so that he can clarify some things for us. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
You are of the view that Ghana does not need deputy ministers. So why this?
Thank you and good evening to your listeners. Yes, we all do appreciate that people who are appointed as deputy ministers are also playing a role to help push this country to the level we all want. But the point is that whatever they are doing, I believe that the substantive minister, together with other staff in the various ministries, can do the work without the deputy minister. That is why I think that this country can do without deputy ministers.
Okay, do you not think that perhaps, like people shared their views in the video blog here, that they are thinking that even a secondary school, a school has a headmistress, an assistant headmistress, so that when one is not there, the other can play the role for the other, or perhaps one is engaged, and so the other goes and then does that. At least, wouldn't you agree that they may need maybe one deputy rather than the 2 and 3 for some ministries?
I believe that if a minister is well positioned, together with technical directors and so on and so forth in the ministry, they should be able to run the ministry and run it efficiently without any deputy minister. In the case of headmaster and assistant headmaster we are talking about, if that is the comparison we want to make, you and I will agree that if the headmaster is not there, the assistant headmaster virtually doesn't have any power at all. What does he do? In the absence of the minister, are we saying that the deputy minister can do everything in the absence of the minister? The point I'm making is that it is possible to run the various ministries in this country without the deputy ministers. I'm not saying that these ministers are not playing a role, but it is still possible for the minister, together with the staff in the various ministries, to be able to run without the deputy ministers. And if we do, can you imagine the quantum of money we'll be saving for this country?
So, yours, shall I say, is it okay to say that your assertion is purely based on the fact that we'll be saving money?
Not necessarily that.
Okay.
Haven't we complained on several occasions that governments have got too big a size, that the size of the government is big, and that should be cut down? This is one way of reducing the size of government. Then the government, or whoever is in power, I mean the president now, can even have his eye go round all his ministers, so that we wouldn't have a deputy minister, if you like, second deputy minister. All these come together to swell the size of the government. Meanwhile, without them, it is still possible to have these ministries run very efficiently.
Okay, I'm trying to quote something from the stories that were trending here, and that Ransford Jampo has made similar suggestions. And also, speaking, he pointed out that the work of ministers and chief directors is clearly spelled out, but that of deputies are very vague. And so, would the vagueness then be a big issue? Would we need to spell it out and then constitutionalize it before you believe it is worth doing? Because even if it's not cutting the wage bill and cutting the number of people, you would understand that every institution would need someone to assist someone, the head of that institution anyway.
Yes, I do agree. And I'm saying that if you really want to embrace this, from within the ministry themselves, we can still get people who will still assist the minister to do whatever he's doing. Yes, to me, it's not even the issue of whether it's in the Constitution or not. What we need to consider is to look at this issue. If it is something that, as a nation or as a people, we want to uphold it, then we go to the Constitution and see, look, this Constitution, we made the Constitution, and not the Constitution made us. The Constitution did not make us. We rather made the Constitution. And we made the Constitution to govern us, to make life better for us. So if today we found something that we think would improve our laws, will help governance of this country, and even if it is in the Constitution, we can still amend or make amendments in the Constitution so to have it suit the time. So it is, to me, it is not the issue of even vagueness or not. I think that this country can run without deputy ministers.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So I'm probably guessing that from what you're saying, you probably will want somebody like a PA for the minister. So there won't be a deputy, but just a PA who is capable and competent to help him.
something like that. And see, this is somebody who is already receiving salary. So we aren't going to pay this person extra. And we aren't going to add to the size of the government. Okay? So if we do it this way, I think that the benefits can be numerous.
Thank you so much for sharing those insights with us. We'll go and take our next video blog. But you know, we seem to have so many deputies, as Aminu was saying there. And let's do the maths, though. There are over 80 ministries in this country with substantive ministers and their deputies. And at least if each of these ministries have one person, that is 160 people. And some have more than one. So let's say the ones that have 2s and 3s add, let's say, 40 people more. And it will mean that we have at least 200 more people who are feeding on our wage bill. That is staggering. So we are, in our next video blog, we want to find out these ministries and departments, you know, how are they impacting on the country's finances? You're sharing your views with us in our next video blog. Let's go and take that.
The roles of the deputy ministers in this country are basically to help the substantive ministers in their official duties. But now it looks like some of them are given specific responsibilities. For instance, you look at the education ministry, where one is responsible for tertiary and the other is responsible for the junior highs and then the senior high or the primary side of education.
Deputy ministers, they are supposed to take in charge of their bosses, the ministers, as in when they are not in the country, or let's say they've traveled outside, or they have been given a specific role to play as part of the ministry or as part of the government to move the nation forward.
They assist the sector minister for day-to-day, what they call, activities.
The roles of a deputy minister in this country is, since let's say for instance we have the Minister of Gender and Children, and we have 8 deputy minister. I think when the minister is not around, here lies the case whereby the deputy minister come in to work on behalf of the minister.
They are there to assist the leaders in their daily duties, in their daily affairs, and running the regions and states.
The video blog that you just saw was the role that the ministers, you think the deputy ministers play. So let's go and take our next video blog, and those ones concentrated on the ministries and the departments. And I've made the analysis already. If there are about 200 people, what role, you know, what impact are they having on our wage bill as a country? We'll take our final video blog. I'll come and then take some more comments.
In that view, I think it's true that we have a lot of ministers. I think if the government can cut down the ministers, at least, like some of the emerging ministry that they are adding, they are creating, I think it's unnecessary to create those kind of ministries. Look at what the budget that they read recently. They said government is going to cut off the 10% paid cuts of the ministers. I think it's reasonable because it's bringing a lot of stress in our economy.
I think it all helps for the development of our country. So if they're supposed to have about 90 ministries and our country move forward, fine. And if the ministries in Ghana here will be about 90 and still our economy is very bad, then I don't know the reason why.
I think the ministries are too many. I think we can do about 90 ministries and that should be okay. For instance, a ministry like Ministry of Tourism, and then we have a ministry like Chieftaincy and Culture. I think you can join them together and it's one ministry. You pick a ministry of like information. Now you realize that we are having a huge challenge in the country. We already have information services. We have PROs in the various ministries. What do they do there? Just collapse the Ministry of Information. All the PROs will do the work of each of the ministries. Get a spokesperson at the presidency to do the presidency job. I think with some of these things, the new introduction of the Ministry of Aquaculture, when they campaign against it, they come back and bring aquaculture. I think it is useless. Collapse it, send it back to agriculture.
They have their own position. Like everyone have their own mandates that they are running. So those ministries are there to take over their own position, to handle their own position, their own various positions.
So we'll take some more comments that are coming in. Majid from Gushegu says 100% correct. In fact, this would save our country, poor country. Ambrose says, what do these deputy ministers do? What actually do they do different from the ministers? In fact, we do not need them at all. They're only burdening the public purse. Aram says, yes, I share their view because they don't see, I'm not getting that. Dedem Simon says, no, they should rather talk of those deputy ministers more than one in a single ministerial position. You mean. Bonti Benjamin, I agree with the political scientist. Bansa says they are spoiling our money. Newton Jefford, for me, 2 deputy ministers receiving the same salary, and we always complain there is no money in the system. Christian Salvo, we need the deputies because the work is very huge. Therefore, the minister needs the assistance so that he or she can deliver. Kobe Laron is a waste of resources. Most of the deputies absolutely have nothing to do at their offices. PM says some ministries do need, others do not need, only in case the government wage increases the government wage bill. You mean to say? Derdem says at least 1 deputy minister is okay. Benjamin says exactly. Why do we spend so much on deputies while a half of the citizenry wallow in poverty? God help my nation. DeWood says politics. Umar says yes, we don't need deputies. It's a waste of money. Please, why don't you read my messages anytime it's my turn after a video blog? I'm sorry, I don't think it would be intentional. Perhaps my eye actually rolls over it or something else, but today I have read your comments, so there you go. Bonaventure, I agree with them. Nomination of deputy ministers is just a waste of money. Abdul says the deputy work in the absence of the minister, so I disagree with it, but the money needs to be cut down. Kinsley Obing says, I also think the deputies do not really contribute to Ghana's development, so we should follow what the scientists say. Prince Jacob says, yes, we don't need them. See, Ministry of Agric, even more than 2 deputies, they are there chopping our money, nyafu nyafu. They should be scrapped. Irama says, strongly disagree. My last comment is from Christian Salvo. The ministers even fail to do the job well. So what will happen if he or she is doing the job independently? And that is where we end it for today. Thank you for all your comments that have been coming through. Bright Amful is back.
My name is Bright Nana Amful.
And I am Marian Ture. Do have a good evening.